All right, let's jump into it today. We're going to tackle a question I know a lot of you have been wondering about. What happens when you only sleep 4 hours a night?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, so we're going to base this deep dog on a video by Dr. Sten Ekberg.
Okay.
And it's on YouTube. And the title is, What Happens If You Only Sleep 4 Hours a Night for 30 Days?
Right.
So, I mean, I think we all know that sleep is good for you, but I think you're really interested in, like, the science behind it, right?
Absolutely. Like, what's actually going on in our bodies when we're sleeping or, when we're not sleeping enough? What's the impact?
Yeah, and so that's kind of what we want to get into today. So to kick things off, can you give us a quick rundown of, like, what happens during sleep? I know there are different stages and all that jazz.
Yeah. So basically when we sleep, we're not just like, knocked out. We're actually going through these cycles of different sleep stages.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, there are 4 main stages, and they're super important. So you have stages 1 and 2, which are like the light sleep, where your body starts to relax.
Okay.
And then you go into stage 3, which is the deep sleep. This one's like the MVP.
The what?
The most valuable player. It's where the magic happens. Like your body's doing all this repair work, releasing growth hormone, repairing DNA, even cleaning up harmful proteins in your brain.
No way, DNA repair? I had no idea.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And then you have REM sleep, which is where you do most of your dreaming and memory consolidation.
Oh, right, REM sleep. That's the one everyone always talks about.
Yeah, exactly. So a full sleep cycle, like 7-8 hours, lets you go through these stages multiple times so you get the full benefits of each one.
So what you're saying is if I'm only getting 4 hours, I'm probably missing out on a lot of that deep sleep goodness.
Oh, yeah, big time. And that can have some pretty serious consequences for your health.
Like what? Give me the scary details.
Well, for starters, did you know that even one night of shortened sleep, like less than 6 hours, can negatively impact your attention, focus, reaction time, even your mood?
Really? Just one night?
Yep. It's kind of crazy. Dr. Ekberg compares being awake for 18 hours to having a blood alcohol concentration of 0.05%.
Wait, what? Like legally drunk?
Pretty much. And 24 hours is like having a BAC of 0.1%, which is illegal to drive in most countries.
That's insane. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, it really puts things in perspective, and that's just after one night. Imagine the effects of chronic sleep deprivation.
So what happens if you consistently only sleep 4 hours a night? Like, what are the long-term consequences?
It's not pretty. Your immune system takes a major hit. For example, one study found that after just one night of 4 hours of sleep, the activity of T cells, which are crucial for fighting off infections and potentially cancerous cells, dropped by 70%.
70%? That's huge.
It is. And because of this link between sleep disruption and a weakened immune system, the World Health Organization actually classifies night shift work as a probable carcinogen.
Wow. So basically not getting enough sleep could actually increase my risk of cancer.
It's definitely a factor, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. Chronic sleep deprivation also messes with your metabolism, increases your risk of heart disease, stroke, obesity, type 2 diabetes, you name it.
Okay, I'm starting to get the picture. This is serious stuff.
It really is, and we haven't even talked about the mental and emotional effects yet.
Oh, right. Like, what do we talk about there?
Well, long-term sleep deprivation can lead to impaired impulse control, increased aggression, heightened anxiety and depression. In some extreme cases, people even experience hallucinations and paranoia.
Yikes, that sounds terrifying.
It can be, and it's a stark reminder of just how important sleep is for our overall well-being.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned that night shift work is classified as a probable carcinogen because of sleep disruption. But what about something like daylight saving time? We're all losing an hour of sleep then, too. Does that have a measurable impact?
That's a great question. And actually, Dr. Ekberg talks about that in his video. He says that research has shown a 24% increase in heart attacks the Monday after we spring forward for daylight saving time.
Seriously, just from losing 1 hour of sleep?
Now, to be clear, it's not like that 1 hour is causing the heart attacks. It's more like it's acting as a trigger for people who are already at risk due to other health conditions.
So it's kind of like sleep deprivation amplifies any pre-existing vulnerabilities?
Exactly.
Okay, I'm definitely starting to feel the need for a nap after all this talk about sleep deprivation. But before we all doze off, I have one more question for you.
Shoot.
We've talked a lot about how bad it is to not get enough sleep. But how much is enough? I always hear that 7 to 8 hours is the magic number. But is that really true for everyone?
Well, Dr. Ekberg actually challenges that notion in his video.
Really?
He points out that sleep needs are like a lot of other biological traits. They vary from person to person. It's not a one-size-fits-all situation.
So some people might naturally need more sleep than others?
Exactly. He uses the example of a bell curve, where most people fall in the middle, but there are some on either end who need more or less.
So how do I know where I fall on that bell curve? How do I know how much sleep I actually need?
That's a great question, and it's one we'll dive into in part 2 of this deep dive.
Okay, well, I'm definitely looking forward to that because I have a feeling I might be on the side that needs a little more shut-eye.
We'll figure it out.
Okay, so we're back. And I gotta say, my brain is definitely feeling a little fried after that deep dive into sleep deprivation.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in, isn't it? All those different stages and the effects of not getting enough sleep.
Yeah, and like, you mentioned how too much sleep can also be a sign of something else going on.
Right, exactly. It's not always a bad thing. But if you're suddenly sleeping way more than usual, or you're still exhausted even after sleeping a ton, it could be a sign that something's off.
Like your body's trying to tell you something.
Exactly. It's worth talking to your doctor just to rule anything out.
Makes sense. So, okay, we've talked about the extremes of too little and too much sleep, but how do we find that sweet spot? Like, how do we know how much sleep we actually need?
Well, that's where those 5 assessment questions that Dr. Ekberg mentioned come in handy.
Oh, yeah, right. The ones about, like, falling asleep easily, waking up refreshed, having enough energy throughout the day.
Exactly. Those are a great starting point for figuring out what works for you.
So if I can answer yes to all those questions, I'm probably good to go.
Most likely. But even if you know how much sleep you should be getting, actually changing your sleep habits can be tough.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that.
It's like trying to turn a supertanker.
A supertanker.
Yeah, it takes time and effort to change direction. It's the same with our sleep habits. We have to be patient and consistent.
So where do we even begin? Like, what are some practical steps we can take to steer that supertanker in the right direction?
Well, first and foremost, establishing a regular sleep schedule is key.
Okay, so going to bed and waking up at roughly the same time every day.
Exactly. Even on weekends, it helps to regulate your body's natural sleep-wake cycle.
Yeah, I've heard that before, but I've always struggled with it, especially on weekends. It's so tempting to stay up late and sleep in.
I know it's hard, but even small adjustments can make a difference. Maybe try going to bed and waking up just 30 minutes earlier or later than usual and see how you feel.
Okay, I could try that. And what about stress? I know that plays a huge role in my sleep.
Absolutely. Stress management is crucial for good sleep. And the good news is it's a learned skill.
So we can actually train ourselves to be less stressed.
Exactly. Whether it's meditating, deep breathing exercises, spending time in nature, or finding other healthy ways to unwind, figuring out what works for you to de-stress is key.
And Dr. Ekberg did a whole video on stress management, right?
He did. If you're interested in diving deeper into that topic, I highly recommend checking it out.
Definitely. Now, he also talked about nutrition. I'm guessing that goes beyond just avoiding caffeine before bed.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's about stabilizing your blood sugar by focusing on real whole foods, the kind that are high in fiber, fat, and protein, and ditching the processed stuff and added sugar.
So avoiding those blood sugar spikes and crashes that can mess with your sleep.
Exactly. It's all connected.
And of course, there's exercise.
Can't forget about that. It's a great way to reduce stress, tire yourself out in a healthy way, and improve your mood. All ingredients for a good night's sleep.
So basically, it's not just about one thing. It's about taking a holistic approach to our health and well-being.
Absolutely. When you start making positive changes in one area, it often has a ripple effect on the others.
You know what I appreciate about Dr. Ekberg's approach is that he doesn't pretend there's some magic bullet for better sleep. It's about making those gradual, sustainable changes that add up over time.
Exactly. It's a journey, not a destination.
I like that progress over perfection. But, it's easy to get caught up in the hustle of life and forget about taking care of ourselves.
It's true. We often sacrifice sleep in the pursuit of success, only to find out later that we've neglected our health in the process.
And sleep is so crucial for our health. It's not just about feeling rested. It's about allowing our bodies to repair and recharge so we can function at our best.
Couldn't agree more. And speaking of recharging, I think it's time for us to move on to part 3 of our deep dive, where we'll explore some specific strategies for improving sleep.
Perfect. Let's do it. Welcome back for round 3. It feels like we've learned so much about sleep already.
I know, right? It's amazing how much there is to discover.
It really is so much more than I ever realized. And, thinking back to what we've discussed, it really strikes me just how individualized sleep is.
Yeah, totally. Dr. Ekberg really emphasized that point, didn't he?
He did. It's not about hitting some magic number of hours. It's about finding what works for you.
Exactly. And those 5 assessment questions he gave were really helpful for that.
Oh, yeah, right? The ones about falling asleep easily, feeling refreshed, having enough energy.
Yep. Those are like your personal sleep checkup.
Okay, so let's run through them again just to refresh our memories. So first, you fall asleep relatively quickly.
Right. And then if you wake up during the night, can you fall back asleep easily?
Number 3, do you wake up feeling refreshed and energized?
And then do you have enough energy to power through your day?
Last but not least, are you feeling good overall? Like
Yeah.
in general?
Exactly. It's all about how you feel. If you're feeling good, you're probably on the right track.
Makes sense. So if you can answer yes to all those questions, you're probably getting enough sleep.
Most likely. But even if you know how much sleep you need, actually changing your habits can be tough.
Yeah, it's one thing to know what you should be doing, But it's another thing to actually do it.
Totally. It's like we were saying earlier. It's like turning a supertanker.
Right. Lots of momentum to shift.
Exactly. You got to be patient with yourself and just keep making those small changes over time.
So speaking of small changes, what are some things people can start with? What's like the most important first step?
Well, Dr. Edberg really hammered home the importance of a consistent sleep schedule.
Right. Going to bed and waking up around the same time every day.
Exactly. Even on weekends, that consistency helps to regulate your body's natural sleep-work cycle.
I know it's good advice, but man, weekends are my downfall. I love to sleep in.
I hear it, but maybe try just shifting your sleep schedule by 30 minutes or an hour instead of going all out.
That's a good idea. Baby steps.
Exactly. And, another thing that can help is creating a relaxing bedtime routine.
Oh, yeah? Like what kind of things?
Things like taking a warm bath, reading a book, listening to calming music, anything that helps you wind down and signal to your body that it's time for sleep.
Right. And dimming the lights, too. Getting rid of those screens.
Absolutely. The blue light from screens can really mess with your melatonin production, which is the hormone that helps you sleep.
Oh, yeah. I've heard that. So basically, we want to create a cozy little sleep sanctuary.
Exactly. Make it a place where you actually want to spend time.
And speaking of things that can mess with your sleep, we can't forget about stress.
Oh, yeah. Stress is a major sleep saboteur.
For sure. It's like you can't relax even when you're exhausted.
Exactly. And that's why stress management is so crucial for good sleep.
So what are some good ways to manage stress?
Well, it really depends on what works for you. Some people find that meditation or deep breathing exercises are helpful. Others prefer things like spending time in nature, listening to music, or taking a hot bath.
There's so many different things you can try.
The key is to find what works for you and make it a regular part of your routine.
Makes sense. It's amazing how much we've learned about sleep in just this one deep dive.
It really is. It's such a fascinating and important topic.
And it's something that we often take for granted.
Absolutely. We tend to prioritize everything else over sleep, but it really should be the other way around.
I think that's a great takeaway. Sleep is an investment in our health and well-being.
Couldn't agree more, and it's something that we all deserve to prioritize.
Well said. So if you're feeling inspired to make some changes to your sleep habits, we encourage you to check out Dr. Ekberg's full video. There's so much more information there.
It's definitely worth a watch. And remember, even small changes can make a big difference over time.
Absolutely. So start with one thing today, whether it's setting a consistent sleep schedule, creating a relaxing bedtime routine, or finding healthy ways to manage stress. Your body will thank you.
And your mind, too.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the fascinating world of sleep. We hope you've enjoyed it.
Thanks for joining us.
And we'll catch you on the next episode of The Deep Dive.